Hello, my name is Tatiana Webb, and this is Off the Record, brought to you by Nana Music Productions. Today, we have a wonderful guest, Miss Lisa Perkins. She is one of our booking artists, and she is also the president of MAMA, which is the Montgomery Area Musicians Association. She's also the owner of Forever Fabulous with a four, and also she's the lead singer of Lisa Perkins and the Illusion Band. So, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
She is, I'll tell you, you are an absolute just businesswoman through and through. I mean, you have so many things that you're working on. Is there anything that I missed when I was, listing off your many roles in the industry and also out of the industry?
Yes, quite a few. Forever Fabulous is a boutique where we dress not just the everyday person, but also musicians. We have wedding gowns, Mother the Bride, evening wear, everyday wear. If you love sparkle, such as myself, then this is the place to be. And we have everything from wedding gowns to accessories, shoes, purses, you name it. If you want to stand out and be fabulous, you need to come see me at Forever Fabulous. And we're located in downtown Wetumpka at 129A Company Street. I also own Titanium Music Productions, with
Right.
this full production music company where we have a recording studio. We also do live sound and production. We book bands as well. And we also do video production. We have Titanium Enterprises, where we do corporate training and motivational speaking. That is mostly what we do there. And I am also the president of Watauga County chapter of Alabama State Employees Association.
Wow.
And that's all I can think of right now. I
Oh my
probably missed
gosh.
something.
So you literally just run all of, Montgomery at this point with music and fashion and just
Hmm.
everything. I mean, you're a one-stop shop. And, I like to say that in a way I'm like that too. So I admire you for what you're doing with all the roles and stuff. And in order
Well,
to do
thank you.
that, you have to be very professional in how you hold yourself as a businesswoman as well as when you're on the stage. So uh, today,
Absolutely.
today we're going to talk about, the professionalism in the music industry. So I
Okay.
do have a question. Um,
Okay.
what are your core elements that really define professionalism in the music industry?
Um, First and foremost, being a man or woman of your word. If you say you're going to do something, the only thing that should stop you is an act of nature.
Mm.
So, regardless of whatever it is, that's the only way that you can have people trust what you say and depend on you and refer you and know that you're going to do a good job at whatever it is you promise them that you're going to do. Um, Being on time,
Mm.
that is very, very, very important. I've had situations with other musicians or just business people in general that can't be anywhere on time to save their life. I've got some people that used to work for me, and I emphasize used to, extremely talented, some of the best out there, but will not be on time to save their mama life. And you cannot operate like that, because if your name is on the dotted line, they don't care who your crew is. You're going to be held responsible. So you got to make sure that you have the right people in place to to help carry out your business. And if they don't, then you got to be bold enough and professional enough to replace them. That's just the bottom line. Um, the way you look, the way you dress,
Hmm.
you can't show up looking like anything. You can't show up dressed like anything. That's very important, because on stage, especially dealing with people who have contracted you, half of how you sound is how you look.
Mm.
If you look a mess, then you've already lost half the battle.
My
So,
my late professor used to say, people listen with their eyes. So
mhm,
if you look good on stage, then they might think you sound good before they even hear
mhm.
you say it. So I resonate and I understand that completely.
Right,
But yeah,
right. And they're a little bit more forgiving if you at least look the part. But and I can tell you a story. I had a situation where me and my band performed for a bunch of doctors and lawyers, and the lady that contracted me, she was married to one of the doctors, and she asked me if I was familiar with the band out of Birmingham, and I was. Um, and she told me that they had performed for that same event for them last year. And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, how were they?" She said, "The band was great, but I would never hire them again." And I was like, "Uh-oh, okay, what happened?" And she said, "Well, they came in and we had a lot of people coming here, and it was an upscale event. You got people showing up in ball gowns and tuxedos, and they had on ripped jeans and t-shirts, and as the people were coming in, and I asked them, okay, well, when are y'all gonna get dressed? And they said, we are dressed. And she said, I couldn't believe it. And her words, not mine. She said, they didn't have sense enough to know what to wear. I was like, oh my goodness. So she said, but they sounded amazing, but I would never have them again. So, you may not think that that's important, but it's very important. And people pay attention to everything you do, especially when they're paying you.
absolutely. I mean, with some of like the bar gigs and bar venues that I would book for my artists, it's forgivable to kind of wear something more casual, but when it's
Mm-hmm.
a contracted event and you can read on the invitation is like, suit and tie and ball gowns and stuff, you might want to look the part or at least look like you belong there instead of you just, coming off the side of the road. So,
Right.
yeah, that it tells a lot about you as an artist and performer with your band and
Mm-hmm.
what kind of,
What kind of
thing.
mindset you're in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So like kind of going into your artistry a little bit. So how do you personally maintain these high standards of professionalism even in stressful or unpredictable situations?
Well, I take what I do very seriously.
Mhm.
And it's something about gig day for me. I turn into a different person. So, and
Same,
that's
I do
not in a
too.
bad way. It's
Like,
not in a bad way. It's in a good way. I become laser focused because I know it's important that I cross every T and dot every I, because one little mistake can get you canceled.
yes, ma'am.
And you have to be very careful, like I said, with showing up on time, making sure your sound check is done in enough time before the people start arriving. I hate doing sound check when people are in the room. That is a pet peeve of mine. So even if we're in the middle of it and the crowd starts coming in, we got to stop. We got to stop. But yeah, just know the importance of what you got going on, and also know that it can take you 100 years to build something in 5 minutes to tear it down.
Yep, that's the unfortunate thing about your reputation. Like it takes forever to build that, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and with musicians and such in general, it's a very I hate to say the word, but it's kind of a wishy-washy kind of industry because it depends on, not a lot of people in the industry, not in the industry, but who contract the people like bands and stuff. They don't understand, what, I guess you could say different elements of what it takes to be a musician. But as a musician, we what it does. And so now we have to present ourselves a certain way where it's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
we want to be bookable every time. So
Right.
what works for this one venue won't work for another venue. So we have to be
Absolutely.
adaptable and be able to just make sure that we flow and present ourselves in the best way. And
Right.
because you never want that comment like how you mentioned, it's like, yeah, they sounded great, but I'm never going to book them again.
Mm-hmm.
I've had unfortunately a few times with some bands where we book them and that we show up on time and everything, but they just didn't look the part, or maybe they didn't show up on time, but they asked, oh, can we play past, closing time? I'm like, no, like, and wanting the full pay too, which is a whole other story.
Right.
But,
Right. And it
okay.
doesn't, they, a lot of musicians don't understand it doesn't work that way. So if you start late, that doesn't mean you get to make that time up in the end and still
Mhm.
get your full pay or not have some sort of consequences. It doesn't work like that.
Right. And kind of the direction I was trying to go with my comment was, just to ask you another one. So, how do standards and professionalism in the music industry differ from other fields? Because, like for example, you have your boutique, and you're also with other entities. You talked about like the business board that you're a part of as well. So, how does being a professional in the music industry differ from that?
It really doesn't.
Hmm.
Um, you just have to be professional and if you're going to run a company or be a professional, you just gotta wear that hat at all times. It's like the boutique, for example. I've never worked in customer service, retail rather. Never wanted to. I don't know how I ended up in this doing this. I'm enjoying myself though. But actually, I do know how I ended up in this. I've had so many entertainers ask me to dress them because of the way that I dress myself and my band when we perform.
You look great when you do it. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I need to get in line with that. So, yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. So, with that being said, after hearing that so many times, then it's like, maybe I might need to kind of have a little side hustle or something, doing this. And then the more I thought about it, and when I started it, because I'm just 2 years old
Hmm.
last month with the boutique, I never imagined doing all the things that I do now. So, like I said, we have everything from wedding gowns to evening wear to shoes, accessories, all of this. That's not how it started. It started out with dressing musicians,
Hmm.
but I was located in Montgomery for 11 months, and 11 months instead of 12 months because someone wanted to rent my unit before the 12th month rolled
Hmm.
in. So he let me go ahead and move. And I wasn't particularly fond of the location anyway, so I was already going to move. So that helped both of us out. But when I got here to Wetumpka, um, when I opened my doors, people came in the door wanting to know if I sold formal wear and if I sold wedding gowns. And so after you keep hearing the same thing over and over, that lets you know what you need to do
Hmm.
and what they're looking for. And being that Wetumpka or surrounding areas really don't have a boutique like mine. There used to be um, a formal event place here in Wetumpka called The Touch of Class,
Hmm.
but they closed down, I want to say, about 5 years ago. Um, and so there hasn't been anything here since then. So the closest place to go to get what I have to offer would be Birmingham or Atlanta.
Hmm.
So it's kind of nice to be um, almost kind of like standalone in your city.
Yeah.
And more people are finding out about me. But um, you still got to be professional, regardless of if they want to buy $1,000 gown or if they want to buy a $5 pair of earrings. You give them the
Hmm.
same customer service. They're still a customer, and you still have to treat them with kindness and respect and professionalism.
Absolutely. I mean, as far as I go with the performances and stuff, so I more so play the role of the A&R rep when we do go to different bands and different performances.
Hmm.
And so what I do is I make sure that the artist stays on schedule, they are taken care of, and kind of alleviate that and I say burden, but just alleviate that responsibility from the venue to try to upkeep with the artist to make sure that they're doing right and what they were contracted for.
Hmm.
And so part of that is, of course, yes, to, help the venue, but also it's really just to also help the artist and just so that they know, hey, you have time to relax. You don't have to worry about the parameters because I'm covering that for you. And, and that's a way that I've started to kind of incorporate that professional mindset with like our new artists and the ones that don't really understand. Yep, you need to be on. Okay, this is when you take your break, and just kind of helping guide that. Not really in a babysitting kind of thing as much as a hey, these are your parameters. Do you need anything?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of now shifting from, we've talked a lot about the client and the venues and the people who we're working for. Well, that professionalism now has to also be internal too, while working together with your band and working with your musician, your other musicians. Because one thing that I know that always comes into play is, okay, when you have rehearsals, showing up on time, actually knowing the
Mm-hmm.
set list, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about the professionalism internally when you've worked with your bands and with other bands that you've booked?
Well, musicians can be a nightmare,
Mhm.
just being honest. You have a hard time getting them to be on the same page with you when it comes to showing up for rehearsals. Now, gig day, I don't have that problem
Well, yeah, there's the
usually
money.
because that's the money day. But rehearsals, let's say my rehearsals technically are supposed to start at 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
Well, they come rolling in at 7:30, 7:45, and like it's okay, you know. But I've learned to which battles to pick. Now, I used to fuss a whole lot and just go off on them, but like I said, the older I get, the more I realize that that's not necessary. You ain't got to do all that.
Mhm.
So I don't do that anymore. I do give them the music ahead of time. Some of them listen to it, some of them don't.
Mhm.
I will say, um, if everybody listened to the music and worked on the music before they got there, it would make the rehearsals go a whole lot smoother.
Mhm.
We wouldn't have to have as many, we wouldn't have to stay in there as long. But like I said, one thing about musicians, you can find some extremely talented people, but musicians can be a little strange.
Yeah.
They can be a little strange. Now we're always gonna knock it out of the ballpark on the stage, but
Mhm.
the road to get there sometimes can be a little challenging. Um, Now, I do things a little bit differently when I get to my gigs because I'm not just the artist, I'm also the driver. All of the equipment, the van, the vehicles, the trailer, everything in the trailer, except for their personal stuff, everything belongs to me. And I do all of their wardrobe. But I do bring an assistant on the road with me. So when we get there, as they're doing sound check and I'm setting up, I'm resting until it's time for sound check. So she's handling the wardrobe and helping them set up, and then she'll let me know when it's time for sound check.
Okay. So
So as
that
far as the
that helps
sets
as well.
go, I don't necessarily have a specific time unless it's a timed event and that I'm going by a strict program, or it's a concert and concerts are like you gotta do it according to the schedule. But
Mhm.
but for the corporate events that I do, just depends on the mood in the room. I may go an hour, I may go an hour 15 minutes, I may go an hour and 30 minutes. Just depends on the energy of the crowd.
Mhm.
And I don't my me personally, I don't like set lists. Wonder why? Because they don't work.
Mm.
So they may work for some people, but I found out at an early age, because I've been performing since I was a child.
Mhm.
Set lists, they do not work because you have things set according to a schedule, and the crowd may not be in the mood for this right now, but
Mhm.
they will be in an hour. So
Yeah.
now you've gotten rid of all of your good stuff, and now you got the stuff where you're just basically trying to finish the gig, and don't nobody want to hear it. So you kind of got to learn how to read the room and know what works and when it'll work and what won't.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that. So I guess because I know we're getting close on time, so I always ask our speakers and our guests just what is one tip that you can give to a musician, to someone in the industry about being professional and just kind of establishing your reputation in the business? Like, what would be a takeaway from this podcast that you would want them to implement almost immediately into their professional role with the industry?
What you need to remember is word of mouth travels fast,
Mhm.
and bad news travels faster than good news. So if you want to be respected and continue to get hired in this industry, you're gonna have to do what you say you're gonna do, and speak with the client. Speak with the client more than once and find out exactly what it is they are expecting of you, and do your damnedest to fulfill the obligations that they are paying you for.
Mhm.
That is everything from being on time to dressing the part, and I do agree with you. Club settings have a whole lot more leeway, but in particularly the more upscale performances or concerts or something, please make sure that you care about how you look.
Mhm.
And just do the best that you can to give them what they're looking for. And that way you can continue to work, because they will refer you forever. I've done generations of weddings with my band for 25 years, same band. Somebody gets married, they're calling me. So that makes a difference.
I mean, it goes back to what you said at the beginning. Do what you say you're gonna do,
Mhm.
and because it's the integrity of what you are providing and what service you're providing to your client, and then also do what you say you're gonna do within the band, because
Mhm.
that establishes trust, that establishes that bond, and it means that you can all now cohesively work together. So
Mhm.
I
And
love that.
pray before anything.
Amen.
Keep God first and foremost, and you can't go wrong.
Hmm.
I even pray for my band when we're not traveling. I do it all the time. And that way I know without a shadow of a doubt, even if I feel like I'm rushing on the day of, and me and the Lord hadn't had our talk yet. We talked about this the other day. So, yeah. So do what you say, talk to the Lord, keep him involved in it,
Hmm.
and you can't go wrong.
There you go. All right. Now, if someone wanted to reach out to you from any of the platforms, any of the things that you're working with, how could they contact you?
You can call my cell phone, honey. I am all over the World Wide Net at 334-467-9715. And you can reach me if you want to get in a recording studio. You can reach me if you got a show and you need to get dressed. You can reach me if you want to become a member of MAMA, which I am, as you stated, the president of Montgomery Area Musicians Association. We meet every second Monday at 7 o'clock, currently at the Sanctuary, which is on South Goldwaith Street in downtown Montgomery. So, and we would love to have you if you are a musician, aspiring musician, singer, or even just a music lover. We share a lot of good things. We try and involve the community in a lot of things musician wise, and we would love to have you participate and share your talents and your input.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Lisa. And if you like what you heard today, you can follow the podcast at Nana Music underscore off the record. You can follow the company at Nana Music Productions and myself at webb dot Tatiana M on Instagram as well. And just remember, this podcast was off the record.